more sleeps until the Serie A season is finally upon us, and the sense of anticipation on the Qué Golazo pod is at boiling point. James Benge joins me today to discuss the top players to watch, as well as we preview the teams looking to clinch silverware in the European places before the fat lady sings in May. Qué Golazo begins right now. With defending champions Inter Milan losing 3 core pillars to last season's title-winning squad and 5 new managerial appointments among last season's top 7, the battle for the Scudetto is wide open this year. We'll work our way through the last seasons, and we'll discuss the Serie A 2021-2022 campaign with the hot teams and those who we need to look out for. James Benge, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. It's so good to have league football back. It's so good to have Serie A coming to CBS. Luis and I, we both grew up in the UK in the 90s. Serie A, it has that special something. It has club upon club of glamour, the coolest kits, the coolest players, and I think it's really starting to get back to its 90s heyday. I have to say, I found it a bit boring when Juventus were winning year in, year out. I don't know if we'll have that this year. Certainly, I think we're going to have an exciting title race, loads of teams competing for top 4, and again, the coolest kits, which is really how we should judge leagues.
100%, James Benge. I couldn't have said it better myself. I got my Ronaldo Phenomenal Inter Milan shirt wearing, and you bought this shirt. When did you buy that shirt, James Benge?
So you might remember, everyone that was listening to Qué Golazo, I was really pro-Italy, and I was right. I was really right before Euro 2020, and I got this so that I could wear it after Italy won the Euro 2020 final, my Italy shirt. That's not been very easy in the UK. Well, in England, at least. I did take it when I went to Scotland, and I don't know, I felt like I was about to get people breaking out into applause in the streets whenever I wore my Italy shirt. I haven't worn it outside in London yet. I've not been brave enough, but one day soon, maybe people will forgive Giorgio Chiellini and company.
I think give it a month, and maybe, as the season, domestic clubs and everything get used to it. But yeah, to your point, be very careful, James Benge. Be very careful. But it's still a beautiful shirt. Of course, as James Benge mentions, the excitement of Serie A is here, and it's just great. As you have listened and watched all the episodes before this, thank you so much, by the way. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, Apple podcast 5-star review, YouTube, subscribe, spread the word, tell your friends. Qué Golazo is here. All right, let's get going. Serie A, James Benge, right off the bat. Okay. When you're looking at the summer business, it's not over yet. The season is upon us. Which club would you say is Serie A's biggest winner of the summer?
Roma. Now? 100% Roma. I think they kind of, due to the financial circumstances in Italy and the relative challenge of financial challenges compared to somewhere like the Premier League, we are seeing some really good teams either being stripped for parts, and we'll talk about Inter Milan in a bit, or at the very least, they're kind of doing well to hold it all together. I look at Roma. I think there are questions maybe about the manager, questions about his ability to achieve at the highest level that maybe we'll have answered this season. But, they've brought in Roger Ibanez, really good centre-back from Atalanta. Rui Patricio is still a good goalkeeper. We'd love to see Brian Reynolds, bit of US talent, getting that buy option activated. But most excitingly of all, and I think this guy's a real player and a half, Tammy Abraham arriving from Chelsea. There's a little 3-way triangle going on with them and Inter Milan and Chelsea. And although Chelsea have probably got the best end of the deal, I think Roma will be very happy with their lot. They've got a top quality striker, Luis, well from Aston Villa, just how good he is at finding that space in the box. And I think that is always a talent that will stand out across leagues. And as much as it's going to be tough for him early on, adapting to the technique, the tactics of the Italian league, in the end, he is he's a top quality finisher. But I'm going on about Roma too much. I think they look like a really good team, and I think they'll be super pleased with what they've done. I don't know what you're thinking, Luis.
No, I'm going that way as well. I was talking to Jimmy. We're talking about this. This is a pivotal moment for Jose Mourinho, I think, in his campaign, in his career. It's about trying to, I guess, either go back to how he felt good in the Inter Milan days. And I think Serie A celebrates a Mourinho more than the Premier League in some ways. And I think he's going to, take advantage of that. Tammy Abraham, by the way, you mentioned it on Twitter. I know that you've written about it. people really need to look at his statistics, specifically in front of goal. Like he's no joke, man. He's no joke. And I think that a league that champions the technical is going to be great for Tammy Abraham. And he's young, man. We're not talking about a 30-year-old here. Early in his 20s, he can still do a lot. I'm with you on Tammy, man. I'm with you. Anything else on Roma before we ask you the next question?
I mean, I'm intrigued as to, what you mentioned it there, Jose. I think, kind of he's been quite quiet. That's been really notable. There haven't been the headlines yet. Maybe that's just because.
Well, not in the Betis friendly, James Benge.
Well, that's true. And I think indeed, was it the Villarreal friendly as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Then, I think that this is a league where, as you say, there's still a huge amount of admiration for him, for what he achieved at Inter Milan, which was, that treble before he left for Real Madrid. And I think, finding comfortable surroundings and, that league where he's a bit more of a returning hero and there's slightly less psychodrama than there kind of was, as every sort of turn in the Premier League made it a bit more uncomfortable for him to be around, to be at Tottenham when he's been at Chelsea, to be at Man United when he's been at Chelsea. It was all a bit too dramatic. And I think here it's a great club. Italian fans are a little bit more at ease with players players and managers going from one big club to another. So these are good surroundings for him. It's a good team. And therefore, I think this is kind of the moment when we'll discover, is Jose Mourinho washed? It's the question we've been asking for years. We might at least get an answer for it.
Special one or the one thing. We'll have to find out. Oh, well, from the question that I asked you first, let's keep going here. Obviously, there's still a little bit of work to do, and it can't be necessarily fair to say, but who would be the biggest loser, do you think, from this? I mean,
summer? Again, it's a little too, these questions are a little too easy. Sadly, it's the defending champions who kind of, through no fault of their own, have been, this is welcome to late stage capitalism. Their Chinese conglomerate owner are struggling financially, and therefore they're bearing the burden. They're being stripped for parts. Inter Milan, no Lukaku, the MVP of Serie A last season. No Achraf Hakimi, a pretty difficult player to replace. I think it would be fair to say. We don't know about Christian Eriksen as well. Now, they've replaced all these players, but you replace one of the world's best strikers in Lukaku with a good Serie A striker in Edin Dzeko.
Yeah,
Denzel Dumfries is a nice pickup. I think he was good. I really like that.
Yeah,
but he's not as good as Hakimi. Çalhanoğlu, I got to interview him over the summer. It's a really great guy. Really excited to be making the switch from AC Milan to Inter. But
brave man, by the way.
Brave. Although again, as you say, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more commonplace, isn't it, than Man United to Man City or Liverpool to Everton. But best of luck with your first derby there, Hakan.
That's what I was thinking.
He's really good, but I think we have to remember that a lot of what we saw last season was contract year. Hakan Çalhanoğlu. How's he going to fare 3 years on a big money contract? That's a question to be answered. And of course, the big one, losing Antonio Conte. I think one could make a case that he ranks alongside Guardiola as the best manager in the world. He has won titles with teams that you might not have thought would have won titles, be it Chelsea, be it Inter. It took a while, but and obviously quite a bit of money. But he did turn this team into serial winners. I wonder how much that switch just flips. It took a while, I think, for Chelsea to get back into the winners mentality that Conte instilled into them. And once it drifted away, I think it can be hard to get back. Simone Inzaghi's a great coach by all accounts. But again, you've downgraded from one of the best in the world to good. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. I think the theme was set when Conte said, I'm leaving, because the project was not meeting my expectations. And once that happened, you knew that it was going to be a rough summer for Inter Milan. But what if they let's get into Inter Milan right off the bat. Okay. Obviously you mentioned all the players ins and outs as well. Lautaro Martinez is still there. Dzeko, you mentioned Perisic. What happens maybe, James Benge, if Duvan Zapata ends up going to Inter? But to your point, Lukaku's gone, Hakimi's gone. Matteo Politano's gone to Parma. You mentioned Ericsson, rightly so as well. Their first game is at home to Genoa, 12:30 Eastern on Paramount Plus. All right. Well, what do they need then? What happens if Zapata comes in, James Benge? Does that help?
I like that, although I kind of thought that I think that Dzeko and Lautaro might be a better match. I think we're all guilty of, with Lukaku, of really not wanting him to be a target man. And he was never just a target man. And he certainly wasn't just a target man at Inter Milan. But I mean, I've just been in his press conference and he's basically just been talking about how Conte helped him as a target man. So I think Dzeko will suit that role really nicely. And we do know he's strong in the air. And if you've got good wing backs who can deliver a great pass like Dumfries, who can really put pressure on the penalty area, that they'll be effective. I think, particularly with a team like Inter, a lot of it is going to come down to how they start this season. And as you mentioned there with the Genoa game, Genoa are a good team, but this is quite a good way to set those troubles to one side. It'd be great for them if one of the new signings could score, if they could get a good win. I mean, it was interesting, just before we came on air, Fabrizio Romano was tweeting as well that there's talks underway about getting Lautaro signed up to a new contract. Obviously, Tottenham put in a bid for him, and I believe Atletico Madrid did as well. I think there was a while when Tottenham were really confident or really optimistic about getting him. I mean, he kind of eased into a sort of a supporting role next to Lukaku, which suited him and suited Inter great. But if this year the attack is built to make the most out of him, then you still have another elite, world-class striker just come back from the Copa America. I'm really excited to see what he does, whether this is the season he goes bang and he kind of establishes himself in that upper echelon, just like Lukaku did. So, I mean, we're both rightly down on Inter because they've lost a lot of good players and they've lost a great manager, but they've still got a lot of good players. And hey, without Antonio Conte, maybe they'll do well in the Champions League.
You never know. We both complimented and attacked Conte in the space of 2 minutes. It was very good. By the way, we haven't even talked about Nico Varela as well, one of the most talented midfielders in Serie A. That's going to be a
talk about anyone that beat England at Euro 2020.
You're wearing their shirt, James Benge. You might as well say it. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the team that really needs to get it going. Juventus, after losing, of course, Scudetto last year, after dominating for so long, as you said, their biggest storyline, of course, is Max Allegri returning to clean up the mess, so to speak. Federico Chiesa, Cristiano Ronaldo. The midfield is being loaded now because Locatelli, as we're taping, of course, finishing his medical, etc. By the time this comes out, I'm sure the statement will already come out. So there's a lot of midfield competition. Weston McKennie, watch out. Buffon has gone to Parma. Merih Demiral on loan at Atalanta. But I talked about Locatelli, Pellegrini as well. McKennie on the permanent deal. Their first game, James Benge, away at Udinese, Sunday, 12:30 Eastern, Paramount Plus. Let's talk about Juventus. Let's talk about Bianconeri and Max Allegri. What do you think?
I mean, first of all, I guess we know Ronaldo is definitely staying after all those.
He didn't write that. He did not write that. No way.
And neither did Ancelotti as well. Was very like, well, we haven't spoken. No, we're not talking right now. As I tweet this, we aren't chatting.
That ghostwriter, by the way, for Ronaldo, James Benge. That was pretty poetic stuff that he was writing in that pad. That was not him. No chance.
Oh yeah, no. You kind of know it beats his sort of normal. Here's me advertising some weird abs thing. Post on. I was like, someone said, "Have you seen what Ronaldo's posted on Instagram?" I was like, do I want to? Anyway. I think, yeah, here we go. I mean, the shushing.
Yeah.
I think that one of the joys of Cristiano Ronaldo is his ability to take offense about anything. Yeah. I think that's what makes him one of the greatest footballers we've ever seen. The fact that he's got it
as a photo, nobody's like, it wasn't a full attack. We were just wondering, man. And then he brings out a writer from the Crown to write his post on Instagram. It was ridiculous.
I mean, it was in El Chiringuito, which has really blown up this summer, hasn't it?
Deservedly so.
Did you see what they said afterwards when they were like, oh, everyone just take it, this summer, you really need to take a step away from your phones. And I was like, well, no wonder you say that because everyone's saying you're wrong. Should we talk about Juventus?
Yeah.
I mean, Max Allegri, another you can kind of, if we go back to why Juventus wanted to move on from him, first to Sarri and then to Pirlo, it was about getting something a bit more progressive out of these players, and it didn't really work. They kind of scraped the title under Sarri and then really fell off the pace, and lucky to be back in the Champions League really under Pirlo. I think we know that Allegri knows these players. He knows how to get them performing. It will start immediately. And in a way, coming back into the club has really enhanced his authority over the situation. An interesting quote earlier in the summer from him, talking about Bonucci and his desire to be Inter Milan, Juventus captain, and sort of pointing out, well, actually, Bonucci, you went to AC Milan for a season, so you're right at the back of the queue to be captain now. Like, if you're not, if you don't have that level of authority, you will not get away with saying that about a star player, one of the best defenders in the world. And I think that really shows that Allegri can do what he wants. He can pretty much set up this team as he wishes, which will obviously be about maximizing Ronaldo's qualities, putting Dybala near him, and then, options upon options in midfield. I'm really excited to see how he lines up. I think Locatelli, though, will be the guy the midfield is built around. Wonderful playmaker. Did a bit of everything fantastically at the Euros. As for Weston McKennie, I loved it last season. I don't think anyone thought it would go like this. He seems to me, and I know this is a sort of pastiche of American players, but really ego-free. A player that does whatever role is required of him, both for the national team and especially for Juventus. So I think he will get his chances just because he is the sort of player that, that someone like Allegri will always have time and space for. Just someone that gets things done, that facilitates those superstars at the top of the pitch. They're my favourites to win the title because, just look at that team. It's amazing.
And I think it goes to your point about Allegri. They needed somebody that was going to go back in there and just put the kids back in order. Somebody that knows the club, old school. I love that Bonucci story because, to your point, he doesn't care who you are. He wants to win with this team and he'll do his thing. This reminds me a little bit of, in The Sopranos when Tony was sick and Sil took over for a little bit and it was an absolute mess with the fam, right? And they needed Tony to come back and sort of put some order. This is it. This is Allegri coming back and really putting everything to place. And Juventus is one that really needs to, especially, obviously, because of the fact that they're not defending champions. They're here to try and make a point and make a run, and also finally make a deeper run in the Champions League. Anything else with Juventus you think that's worth mentioning?
I just very briefly on what you were saying there about the parameters have changed for Juventus, and I'm interested to see whether we know that players don't need extra motivation, especially when they're your Chiellini's, Bonucci's. But does it change things having to win the title again? Footballers are always looking for that thing to take offense to, that thing to give them the extra 1% motivation. And I think with Juventus, there's nothing better, isn't there, than, they stole our crown from us. People think we got sloppy. People think we're past it. We're going to prove them wrong.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, a producer, Des Norris, is always thought that Silvio Cell was always the Pirlo of the Bada Bing. I don't know if he was as creative as Pirlo, but he was definitely, I don't know. I probably see him more as a Gattuso, maybe, or maybe that's Paulie. You would think Paulie's Gattuso, do you think?
So I have watched The Sopranos once, a very long time ago. And I watched it all in a few weeks at university. And so it pretty much all melds into the background. I'm not crazy about The Sopranos.
Oh, my God. James Benge. Oh, you're more of a Wire guy, probably, right?
No, not even The Wire either. Mad Men.
What? Okay. All right.
I'm the sort of unbearable person that, everyone goes, oh, The Wire or The Sopranos. And I go, Mad Men. And people go, oh, I hate you.
Well, creatively, there's a lineage there. So that's fine. All right, fine. Then Allegri's Don Draper then, straight up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's keep going here. Let's talk about a team, by the way, that a lot of people are hot on. I love them. I know you do too. Atalanta. Gasperini, one of my favorite managers. I tremendous stuff. Everybody's a fan. But can this finally turn into titles? Okay, we've talked about, obviously, how high they can go up the table. Duvan Zapata, we got to find out what's going on with him. His Colombian compatriot as well, Luis Muriel, Matteo Pessina, of course, but Golini, Spurs on loan. Christian Romero, Tottenham as well. Ibanez went to Roma. Musa Barrow, Bologna. Cornelius went to Parma. They've got some arrivals, including the aforementioned Demiral. And obviously, Fabrizio Romano favorite, by the way, Matteo Lovato from Verona, who, eyes to watch out on him, and Pezzala as well. They're away at Torino Saturday, 2:45 Eastern on Paramount Plus. Atalanta, James Benge, what do you make of them?
I hope I'm wrong, but that's a lot of talent that has left this summer. I mean, Musso for Golini, that's probably a fair swap, but remember that losing Romero means that they've lost the best centre-back in Serie A last season. It's not just me saying that. That is what he was voted.
And a team that loves to attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the real challenge and there, we don't know if Zapata will be there come September the 1st. It feels like there are a lot of things we don't know. And look, with Atalanta, they surprised us. We said last season when Papu Gomez left mid-season, we said, oh, is this it? Are they going to drop out of Champions League contention? They proved us wrong. So I'm really open to being proven wrong here. But Romero is a world-class centre-back. And they've lost him. And as good as Demiral is, I know he's someone that I've kind of watched a lot because a lot of Premier League teams have been scouting him for the last few years. It's a step down. And that defense, as you say, is going to prove so pivotal. If you want to be able to attack, you've got to feel confident leaving the back door locked. Having said that, whether they win the title or not, I'm pretty much going to be tuning in as much as possible. They are a thrilling team. Some brilliant reclamation projects. I love watching Mario Pasalic, who has come out of nowhere to be this great dynamic box-to-box midfielder. Obviously that front two as well, and Pessina, who again yet another player who really shone at Euro 2020. So I still think they'll be around top four comfortably, and I think that's what they should be aiming for. But title race maybe not just this season. So
at the very least, the top four, you think, for Atalanta?
I think so. Well, I think that's what they need to expect. I don't know if they'll get it. It's just, JJ did our power rankings last week, and I didn't agree, but he had Inter at 7th. There is.
It's a very competitive campaign this time.
It's a really good team that doesn't even make the Europa League. Yeah, a really good team stuck in the Conference League, moaning about having to go to. I was going to say Moldova, but they'll be playing in the Champions League.
It is a competitive one, so it'll be interesting to see how Atalanta do, and Gasperini, of course. All right, let's keep going here, and let's talk about AC Milan. AC Milan back in the Champions League with the youngest team, by the way, in the division. Of course, we got to talk about Zlatan Ibrahimovic and, of course, the beautiful Olivier Giroud, who comes in for AC Milan. Donnarumma's gone. Ginoglu, you mentioned Inter Milan. Diego Lachal as well, Dinamo Moscow, but I mentioned Giroud. We talked a lot about, I know that Jimmy's high on Mike Maignan from Lille, a very good goalkeeper. And obviously Tonali and Brahim Diaz as well, another from Real Madrid rolling. First up, Sampdoria away Monday, 2:45 Eastern on Paramount Plus. That's a Monday game. AC Milan, James Benge, they were so close last year, and then the wheels came off. They realized that it's a marathon and not a sprint. What can they do this time around, especially now with the Champions League schedule as part of their calendar?
I mean, turned it around quite nicely, and I think what they've done with some of those signings, particularly Giroud, is just added a few more options that allow Stefano Pioli to play that similar way. I think, I remember talking about this when the move was going through with my editors. We were sort of saying, who is the best approximation for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and who has been ever since Zlatan kind of lost his legs? Well, it's Giroud. In many ways, you might even argue that they're going to end up at least rotating between the two. Giroud was fantastic for Chelsea, really reliable finisher. Well,
I mean, look at him. Adonis right here.
Absolutely stunning to look at.
And he loves the fact that he's at Milan as well.
He's so fashion. It's a perfect melding of, and it's the right time, I think, for him to move on. I think it was amazing. He left Chelsea, where at the time a lot of fans were kind of like, do we want this Arsenal outcast? and he left with Thomas Tuchel just glowing about him. Every other manager, everyone keeps coming back to Giroud. Lampard was like, "Oh, I'm ready to move on." No, came back to him. Sarri adored him. Eden Hazard talks about him as one of the best players he's ever played with in terms of.
But James, I mean, he doesn't look it, but he is 34. So the rotation story definitely with him and Zlatan.
I can't believe it, and I'm 31. How depressing is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, look at him. It's whatever. But yes, I think the rotational thing, the policy between him and Zlatan will be key, especially because of the Champions League midweek matches, etc. So that's a key thing.
Maignan as well. I don't know if I pronounced that well.
We're all trying here, by the way. So maybe Jonathan Johnson can help. But Maignan,
we'll wait for him to say it and then copy that.
Yeah,
he was exceptional for Lille last season. His numbers are great in terms of how he performs against XG. Good sweeper keeper. He's not. We've said the same thing we said about with Inter Milan. He's not Donnarumma, but he is a damn good replacement. He is a player I would really look forward to seeing playing. And then obviously Brahim Diaz back at the club. They've got this great mixture. I think they've built the squad right. So you have Ibrahimovic and you have Giroud as the talismans, the players that the other players can play off, and they know exactly what they're doing. I mean, I remember talking to Rafael Leao last season about just how amazing a leader Ibrahimovic is. Not something we necessarily think, and I'm sure they'll think the same about Giroud. But it's a really nice mix of experience and youth. I like this team a lot. I think they're going to get top 4. And I think they might end up being right up there with Juventus. I think they're a really good team.
Is it an advantage, do you think, that Pioli is one of the only manager that's sticking around out of those top 7? Only another one is part of it. Everybody else is changing personnel, but not AC Milan and Pioli. Is that an advantage, do you think?
Oh, hugely. I hadn't thought of that, but it's a really good point that, that it's been more changes around the edge, around the side. So, yeah, we haven't got, we know that we can't have Zlatan week in, week out. So let's add an option there. Let's replace anyone we need to, but otherwise keep that core together. It's been a really good window for them, as much as losing, as much as it could be when you lose Donnarumma. Yeah, I think, as you say, having Pioli there, he needed time and he needed patience, but I think now everyone at AC Milan really trusts in this guy. No regrets about not getting Rangnick a year ago. It's all worked out really well, and there's such a buzz. I know a few people at Milan, and there's a real optimism about this new season, real excitement for what's to come. So I think watch for them. Tough way to open the season away at Sampdoria, but watch for them to hit the ground running, and I think they may be up there as a pace setter in the first.
There you have it. Keep your eyes on AC Milan one more time. If you're listening to this on audio, we're going to take a quick break. If you're on YouTube, we're going to keep on rolling right here with Serie A as we look at the contenders. We'll be right back. Here's our plug. By the way, James Benge, you ready for a plug? Fantasy football today draft, prepping for charity month, supporting St. Jude is underway. Throughout the month, the FFT crew will have various eBay auctions supporting St. Jude, culminating in the 6-hour draftathon event on September 1st. Up for bid are pre-draft calls with fantasy experts, a spot in an expert fantasy league, a custom designed fantasy football team logo, and much more. Go to cbsports.com/eBay to donate and bid. That's cbsports.com/eBay. James Benge, I used to do fantasy football all the time. The NFL, I mean, I can't do it anymore. It takes too much of my time. I might get divorced. So, I do it in other ways. But you're an NFL fan, are you not? Or is it more NBA?
NBA. No, NFL. It's just bad rugby.
I'm so glad we had you for the plug after our fantasy football plug.
Well, look, this is for an American audience, and they don't care what a British person has to say about NFL. I mean, I've been to a few games at Wembley and Twickenham. I mean,
oh, you have? Okay.
It was a lovely day out, but it's not rugby, is it?
We're about to get into that one. Hey, listen, I played rugby in high school, so I'm with you, but I love the NFL. I can't wait for it to come back. I just can't do fantasy football again. It takes too much. It's the same way as baseball as well. I can't do it. It'll take too much of my time.
Because you have to I would struggle enough just working out what roster spots I need. I mean, and fantasy Premier League is just, I'm finding that exhausting this year as well.
Exactly. But anyway, if you are doing fantasy football, please make sure that you go to cbsports.com/eBay and follow fantasy football team. All right, let's keep going, James Benge. Napoli Big storylines here with Napoli because Gattuso is gone. Spalletti is in. 2 seasons out of the Champions League, though. Okay, but they still have talent. Lorenzo Insigne, Victor Osimhen, of course, Dries Mertens, Kalidou Koulibaly, Chucky Lozano. Okay, they lost Elsa Hisac to Lazio. Politano, as we mentioned, is coming from Inter Milan. Up first, what a game. At home to Venezia, newly promoted Venezia, Sunday, 2:45 Eastern on Paramount Plus. Napoli, James Benge. Are you hot on Napoli?
No. I do like Spalletti.
Spalletti's great.
He's a really successful manager. I know he didn't maybe have as great a time with Inter, but I think when you look back at it now, there was maybe a sign of a bit of stabilization. And I mean, that's what Napoli need. Let's have a moment as well, I think, to reflect on Gennaro Gattuso's mad summer, leaving Napoli a week at Fiorentina, about 5 minutes when he was Tottenham's soon-to-be manager.
Just crazy.
What a summer that guy's had. Interested about Koulibaly. He is obviously, as we all know, a really fantastic defender who is probably, if you don't sell him now, you're not going to get a decent fee for him ever again.
Yeah, his stock is going down. So he needs to.
We are not in the sort of era of Koulibaly being the hot prospect, the one everyone wanted to buy.
30 years old, James Benge. He's not getting younger.
Yeah, I don't like hearing that. Okay, let's not suggest that. I mean, he's a young man at 30. Let's be super clear on that. 30, 31, prime of his youth. But, you know, from what the reports in Italy are that he may move on. I think we're all waiting for Dries Mertens to slow down, down to, he's what, 34, 35? I mean, it does seem like it's a squad that will need a sort of slightly longer refresh. I'm intrigued as to whether they keep Lorenzo Insigne around for that. By all accounts, he will stay put. And I think when you've got him, you'll always, and the players like Mertens and Koulibaly and Osimhen, who was great in his first season, and I'm sure will fly in his second. Phenomenal at Lille as well. It feels like they're probably at the stage where they want to take a step back just to restock. This isn't like 3-4 years ago where they were competing for the Scudetto, and maybe that overhaul the rebuild has been a bit overdue. But Chucky Lozano as well, Fabian Ruiz. There is talent aplenty in this squad, and you'd be mad to rule them out of a top 4 at the very least.
Especially under Spalletti, somebody that knows this league very well. They'll have them more defensively focused, I guess. Very composing, controlled. That should be an interesting relationship. Really interesting.
I think that maybe that it will go back to the Benitez era at Napoli, which was a bit grit and grind, not always the most free flowing, and then we'll kind of trust that front 3 or front 4 of Mertens, Lozano, Insigne, Osimhen to do the damage at the other end. The more I talk about it, the more optimistic I am that they can be there or thereabouts, because the talent is there. It's coming towards the end of its life cycle, but maybe I was initially too downcast on them, and they can impress this year.
Well, they have a home game against Venezia. That should be a really fun game to watch out for. All right, let's move on here. Roma, as we talked about at the beginning. So we won't stay too long on them because you mentioned a lot early on. But obviously, Mourinho taking the lead here at the helm. What could possibly go wrong? Jose Mourinho, Roma, Tammy Abraham, Brian Reynolds, of course. Dzeko's gone. Under and Lopez gone to Marseille. Justin Kluivert's gone to Nice. Florenzi, we don't know his future right now. We're hearing Juventus maybe. We talked about Abraham Ibanez as well. Patricio incomings, Brian Reynolds as well. As you said, the buy option has been activated. And up first at home to Fiorentina, Sunday, 2:45 Eastern on Paramount Plus. What do you make of Roma? Mourinho, I know that you said at the top, had a very good summer in terms of actually getting Champions League. And winning it, definitely not, right? But Champions League?
Yeah. So we're going back to talking about Tammy. I do think a lot of it comes down to whether Tammy Abraham hits the ground running. I think I will believe in his talent if he has a bad first season in Italy. But you do kind of have to assume he might have a bad first season in Italy because it's a new league. You know, this is a guy that has played all his football in England, and it's a culture shock. And, you know, it takes time to hit the heights. So that's interesting when you then compare that to, I'm not appointing Jose Mourinho for the long haul. I'm appointing him because I think he can get me up the table quickly if I'm Roma. So,
well, if it doesn't happen, James Benge, very quick then. If it doesn't happen,
it's you know, we all know what happens in Rome to charismatic leaders. Maybe sometime around March.
Yeah,
sorry, that's a Shakespeare. Well, Shakespeare / ancient.
No, the Ides of
joke.
March, I get it. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Bit forced, wasn't it?
So no Champions League. Now it's fine. No Champions League though. Then surely he's out. Or is that being mean?
It's part of. You don't. I wonder also how much nowadays do you appoint Mourinho because it's a flex. It's a sign that you feel you belong in the elite. And then my question becomes: does it matter then how he performs? Do you have to prove you're in the elite for Mourinho to be a sign that you're in the elite? I know that's quite a clunky way of phrasing it, but you understand what I mean. That it's almost like appointing him nudges you up a little level in terms of where you are in the European pecking order. So if you're a team like Roma that kind of needs to do that on a bigger scale than just footballing wise, I don't know if you're then inclined to just stick with him as long as it's not a complete disaster. I think a lot of people in football are still entranced by the idea of Mourinho. We saw this with Daniel Levy. We'll see this again with whatever club he follows his time at Roma with. I think I don't know. I literally don't know. How could you know what to expect from Jose Mourinho when he's constantly surprising you?
Yeah, I think the best scenario for Roma is to have the unsexiest campaign and then build up as we get towards the end. So win 1-0, draw away from home, stick around in the top 5, and then as Christmas comes, then you build up. And suddenly, out of nowhere, everybody's like, oh my God, Roma are third. And it's like March. Amazing. And so like the best possible thing for Mourinho, I think, is to just let the football do the talking and everything else, take care of business. And to your point, Tammy Abraham, just be a consistent deliverer. Do you think that we expect a Roma, a club that can sort of be a Super League club in the future, maybe?
It's Rome, isn't it, man? Like, this is the most, I think part of it is, when you talk about things like Super League, you're as much talking about branding and imagery and like, by God, Roma nailed that. There's something about this club that feels a little bit like it should be so much bigger than it is.
They're great on social.
They're amazing on social. I don't know. Does that? I feel like that is the sort of thing that
it's part of it because you're trying to reach out to your young fans and digitally savvy fans. Yeah.
The investment bankers that will end up funding these projects will go, oh yeah, we like Roma's skewing on 16 to 35-year-olds. Let's have them in the Super League.
They have some really cool community-driven, charity-driven campaigns as well. Amazing. They're good. They're a good club from that perspective. All right. Okay. Well, listen. Let's finish up with the neighbor, Lazio. Okay. Big storylines here. Of course, it's Sarri ball back to, seeing what they can do. Maybe some revenge on the haters. Immobile, of course. Milenkovic-Savic, we are very hot on Milenkovic-Savic over here, but there's been departures. Pereira has gone, end of loan there. Matteo Musacchio, end of contract. Felipe Anderson from West Ham is here. Luca Romero from Mallorca, that young teenager. And Dimitri Kamenovic as well is there. Up first at home to Empoli, Saturday, 2:45 Eastern. Talk to me about Lazio. Sarri ball.
Oh, I love it. I think... It seems like Sarri has been searching for that club.
Look at him with the eagle.
I don't know who looks more terrified there, him or the eagle. I think post Napoli, what was kind of clear when he was at Napoli was this couldn't work at a huge club. It couldn't work at a Chelsea or a Juventus because it requires both a level of buy-in and a kind of. acceptance that you can't, these things take time that you just don't get at the biggest clubs. You know, we all talk about Sarri ball and we remember the last season at Napoli. I'm not an expert, but I suspect if you go back earlier in his reign, you would have had those teething problems you had at the other two clubs where it was just a bit slow and stodgy because it needs time. It needs specific play. I mean, like we don't really know that it doesn't just need Jorginho for it all to work. But I mean, also there are little ingredients there that I really like the look of. You can see Milinkovic-Savic kind of doing what Marek Hamsik did as that goal scoring midfielder. Felipe Anderson, I'm interested in. My suspicion is this will be one of those never go back transfers. Don't, you know, he had to go somewhere because God, he was not wanted at West Ham.
Right.
But
I don't know. I'm a little bit, maybe I'm more poetic on it or idealistic on it. I'm thinking that this is going to be a good thing for him, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know. It didn't work out at West Ham, obviously.
I think, you know, well, we've also seen that Sarri gets the best out of wingers. His system has so far cleaved a lot to the left-hand side. So I would assume that Anderson's not just going to be stuck out on an island. He is going to get lots of touches, lots of opportunities to play himself back into form. Having said that, I saw him at West Ham and he was rubbish. Well, no, he had a lot of talent, but he was infuriating. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. He's not rubbish. He's a lot better at football than me. So who am I to judge?
Well, listen, give me your predictions on Lazio then. Just can they do Champions League? I mean, winning it, obviously, again, tough.
Yeah, probably not. I think if they're smart, they've got Sarri for the project for the long term. So maybe next year. They'll be good next year. All
right, we'll see. Well, we got some honorable mentions in terms of players, by the way. Fabrizio Romano earlier this week was talking about Duhan Blahovic from Fiorentina. This is a player, by the way, that people are looking at. Remember his name. He will become one of the best in the game. He was talking about him. Is there anybody else that you're keeping your eye on this season in Serie A? Anybody that we haven't discussed? It can be a big player, perhaps a player on the rise. Anybody that you're looking at?
I mean, this isn't someone that's going to take the world by surprise, but I've always had a thing for right wingers that cut it onto their left foot and bend it in the far corner and play that way. I love Domenico Berardi, and I really like Sassuolo. I think it's going to be a big challenge for them adjusting to post-Locatelli life, but they're a fun team to watch. They play nice football, and Berardi is my sort of player. I don't know if you've got any better ideas, but he was the one that caught my eye first. Luis, what about you?
No, I love that one. I love that one. I mean, listen, I don't think we talk enough about Kessie, to be honest with you, from AC Milan. I mean, he's not a shocking name to mention, but Frank Kessie, the Ivorian, is ridiculous. I think he's so great, very underrated. Only 24 years old, James Benge. He's 24. I mean, I think the African Cup of Nations might be let's see what happens there, but 72 appearances for AC Milan already since 2019. I think he's a tremendous player, and he can be, if AC Milan do things this year, it's because of players like him, because of what he can do. What do you make of it?
Love him. I thought he was amazing in the Europa League. I saw a bit of him against when he was playing against Manchester United. He scored that goal, but was just excellent across the park. It's dreadful to say it, but I kind of look at players like Vlahovic, like Kessie.
Come to the Premier League.
Yeah, I think I can't wait to see them in the Premier League.
Yep, I know. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Superpower. I'm
surprised that we haven't heard enough news about that, to be honest with you, especially Kessie. I think he's a talent, man. He's an absolute talent.
He's perfect for this division.
Yeah. All right, well, let's finish up with this, everybody. Very quick initial gut, way too early to figure it out, but I'm going to give you the questions here, James Benge. Are you ready? The big
only if you answer them as well.
Okay, fine. Number one, who's winning Scudetto?
Juventus.
AC Milan. All right. Top four. Yeah, might as well go for it, huh? Top four. Give me your top four.
Milan.
Yep.
It's obviously Juve top. Milan.
Yep.
In Roma.
Yep.
Inter.
Oh my God. All right. I'm going AC Milan, Juventus. I'm going Roma, and I'm going Atalanta. I'm with Jonathan Johnson. I think Inter Milan are going to really struggle this year, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know, but that's it. All right, your capocannonieri.
I'm going to go a bit left field on this. You may not have heard of this player. Cristiano Ronaldo.
How do you spell that? let me Google him for a second.
I think he did quite well in the Spanish fifth division or something.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be boring. I honestly think it's going to be that. I think this is Ronaldo revenge year, and I think he wants, whether Juventus do the thing with I think Allegri's going to get the best out of him.
Let me let you in on a secret. Every year is Ronaldo revenge year.
Every year.
Something.
Can we just do an Instagram post every time like this? Like shh. Like if you wrote that Instagram post for Cristiano Ronaldo, please reach to us, okay? Qué Golazo Pod on Twitter. I want to know who you are. Because it's definitely not Cristiano Ronaldo. I just want to know.
He could surprise you. He may contain No.
Hey, and it's nothing to do with English as a second language, whatever. Like English is my. It's not about that. It's just the way that it was written. Like, no way you wrote that.
Oh yeah, no, it was fantastic. I was like, that's good copy.
Yeah, there you go.
Get this guy at CBS. Let's sign him up. Let's poach some more Serie A talent.
I love it. And that's it. That's our Serie A show. James Benge, before we say goodbye, anything else? I know that you may not have any because you gave us so much, but anything else that we missed to look out for? I thought for the fact that Serie A is on Paramount Plus.
Well, I mean, please do watch it on there. If you want to read a bit more about it in the next few days, and we've talked about a few of the players here, but I'll have a sort of deep performance analysis dive into 5 of the most exciting new signings and players I'm looking forward to watching. It's going to be a big. I think we've all got to watch a lot more Serie A this summer than maybe we did this season than we did last. So, yeah, CBSSports.com. I'm going to have some players to watch out for who might surprise you and me.
I love it. And follow him on Twitter, James Benge. He'll be on HQ as well throughout the season as well. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review for Qué Golazo. See, we do so much that I always stumble on our own name. But please like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It always helps. James Benge, thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure.